All right, so let's continue making our foundation plan and our structural framing plan. So if you have a deck, you're going to need to create a beam system for your deck as well. You go up to structure, just like we've done before, beam system, and then sketch beam system, and then we can pick lines. Hover over your deck boundary, and you can hit tab twice, and you can create the boundary lines for your beam systems. Now this will be a little bit different than we've done before because we want to change the direction of the joists. Because we want the joists on the left here, or on the west side, running east to west, but we want the rest of the deck to run north and south. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to tab over the magenta boundary line we just made and copy it. Oops, I think I just drew another one on top of it. Let's undo. And so we can tab to select all of it and hit Control C to copy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over here on this corner and work my way around. So I'm going to trim corner up here at the top. And now I've trimmed this, so this deck will be different. And I'm going to change the beam direction to be going east to west on this part of the deck. Next, I'm going to align with the align tool up here to the face of these posts that I have out here. So that we'll put in a beam out here to support the edge of the deck out here. So before we hit OK, we'll have to delete the other lines that we drew, because it will only let us draw one boundary in a beam system. So hit OK. And then you can see it only put them, a very few of them, so we can go over here and fix the spacing to 2 feet, just similar to the house. And then we'll do the beam system again. And then we'll sketch beam by system, and then we can come up here to paste and align to current view, and it will paste that profile that we took, so we don't have to keep drawing it. So we'll just trim corner for this bottom deck, and we're going to want to delete these other lines we pasted in just by hovering over it, hitting tab, and then selecting them. And then we'll put our beam direction here as well. I'm going to align to the face of these posts again, and then I'll just kind of work our way around. And then what I can do is change it to 2 feet before I escape, and then hit OK. We can go back up to structure, beam system, sketch. We can paste the current view, and then just keep trimming out the areas that we don't want. Hover over the remaining lines, hit tab once to select them, and pick them, and then you can delete them. Hit align, and adjust the face of this beam system to the face of the posts out there. Oh, so see, I tried to quit before I specified the beam direction. So I'm going to hit continue, hit beam direction, and specify this line for my beam direction. Make sure it's 2 feet, and hit OK. And then we'll do the last one here. Beam system, sketch by beam by boundary, align to current view, paste, and then trim this last part of the deck here. We can hover over that magenta line, hit tab once and pick, and then delete it all. And remember to set the beam direction here, and then hit OK. Now I've got my deck. So if we were to open up our, let's open up our 3D structural view. And you can see it actually put it up too tall. We'll need to subtract a 3/4 of an inch. So if you come around and select your beam systems, oops, I need to offset that one from the posts. And last one. And we go back to our structural view. We can grab the deck that we've done and just double check to see what it looks like. It's a 3/4 inch wood planks on the top. So we can lower the joists 3/4 of an inch. So we can hover over the beam system until we get that double dash line that represents the beam system. Then you can hold Control and pick all of them. See, as you move your cursor slowly over it, it will highlight the beam system that we just drew. And I'm going to give it a negative 3/4 inch offset in this elevation from level. Going to hide some of these. In our structural view, you can right click, hide in view, and hide category. I'm going to hide the topography as well, hide in view, hide category. Now the next thing I want to do, I want to add a beam that goes from the front here across. So I can come up to structure, beam, and let's load a family. So we'll go to our English Imperial folder under libraries under 2021 Revit, and go to structural framing. That's where our beams will be. We'll go to wood, and let's pick timber. This member is probably oversized for this span, but we'll pick this 6x8. And we'll want to, let's see, we'll just pick between these two posts to place our beam. And let's cut a section through there to see where it placed it. So placed it above. So let's change this beam so that the justification is top. And that the start level offset is negative 0.75. And for both those values, negative 0.75. If you only change one of the values, it will make your beam sloped. actually going to, so we got our first beam in, but I'm going to load a different beam. I'm going to try dimension lumber and do a 4x10 instead. And I'm going to change the Z justification to top. And I'm going to give it a negative 0.75 inch offset right from the get-go. And I'm going to place the beam down here. And then I'm actually going to cut another section. So you go up to your quick access toolbar or view and section. And we'll just cut a section through the beam we just drew, just to make sure that it's coming into the correct location. Oops, I drew a 6x8 again. So let's select it, and I'll change it to the one I just put. So I did a 4x10. And so once you've placed the beam, you can select it and change it at any time. So this one that we drew previously, we can just select it, select the 4x10. I'm going to edit this deck. So if we can select the deck, edit type, I'm going to duplicate it and call it wood joist 10-inch exterior deck. I'm going to delete this upper layer so that we just have our top layer. So make that 3/4 of an inch. Actually, I'm going to escape because I want to make sure. So wood planks is what we were using. I'll change that to wood planks before I forget. I'll delete that layer and then make that 3/4. And actually, I think I'm going to make that 1.5. Because it should be the thickness of like a 2x6. So let's look at our wood planks. Yeah, so we're using 2x8s for our pattern. So I'm using an 8-inch surface pattern. So that's what will it's indicating that we're using like a 2x8. So I'm gonna hit OK. And then I will have to change these to be a negative 1.5 inches instead of negative 3/4. Let's go into our 3D structural. I'm just going to hide the floor so we can see our beams easier and our joists. So hide in view category, and then I can grab all of these. Beam systems a little bit easier. So I've got 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep. And I give it a negative 1.5 inch offset. And then the couple beams I've placed, I'll give those a -1.5 inch offset as well. And we can come back and select our 4x10. It still has the top -3/4, so we'll change that to -1/2 and place the rest of our beams here. So just work your way around. And because we set our offset and justification, it should be placing them in the correct location. And so just continue working your way around. Now this same thing will have to happen on, oops, I placed it in the same location. So if you have a roof overhang, you're going to need the same kind of thing. You're going to need a beam out there to support the roof overhang between any posts that you placed. So this will be the same kind of process, but you'll do it on your top plate level. And so you'd want this beam, let's see, you'd want this beam to be between your posts at the roof level. And I think I'm going to place the beam here too at this little bump out so that these joists have something to hold on to. And I can clean things up once I get them placed. I don't like the way this beam is joining. You can see it's like sticking out past. So we can actually come up here on the Modify tab to Beam and Column Joins. So once you press that, it'll highlight any beam joins, and you can actually click these little arrows to try and get it to join how you want it to join. So you kind of click through the arrows to get the options, and here I've made it so that it's kind of mitered the beams together. And once you're done with that, you just hit escape and you're good to go. So let's go to the top plate since we were just talking about that and do the same thing. So I'm going to hide the planting. Hide in view by category. I'm just going to hide the roof in this one. And then what I can actually do, because if I just use that same beam, or even if I don't, I can copy those beams that I just placed up to the roof. If not, you'd have to just go draw them separately. But if you had a deck and you drew those beams at the deck level, you can just select one and then go down to select all instances visible in view. And then you can hit Control C, or you can come up here and hit copy on the modify tab. Go to the top plate, and then you should be able to just align to same place. And they're still attached to level 1. So let's hit Control Z to undo that. I'm going to go back to my framing plan. I'm going to do the same thing. Select all instances visible in view. And then I'm going to go to the, I'm going to select previous so that I can get my selection and open my section, and then I'm just going to copy them up. So I can hit CO or hit copy up here on the modify tab, and they're locked into place. So what you need to do is you have to unconstrain them so that you can actually copy them up, and then copy them straight up to the top plate level. And I'm going to move them up since it seems like they didn't go all the way up to the level. So hit disjoin or uncheck constrain, and just move them up. So now that I've got them all here, they seem to be a little bit too deep for our soffit, our roof. So what I'm going to do is, actually, I'm going to move them down because I want them to actually be sitting, I want the roof truss to be sitting on top of this beam. So I'm going to, if you deselect something, you can right click and select previous so you can get your previous selection set. Go to modify, grab and move, and let's move them down. So I'll hit constrain, and we'll move them down to that level. And what you can see in your 3D structural, you've got your beams here. I don't think I'll need those there though, so I'm going to delete those ones for that bump out. And if we go to our architectural 3D view, you can see that it placed these beams there, so it's going to support this roof structure. Because the posts alone wouldn't support it, so we got our beams going all the way around. And so in your plans, you would do the same thing. You'd go to the top plate, and you would want to go through there and make sure that, you know, you're placing your beam on your top plate plan instead of like I just did. I just copied them up, but you'd want to just place them there. Give this a little offset so I can see these better. You'd want to draw these beams just like I did for the deck, but you would want to draw them on your top plate plan and then move them down so that they are underneath the roof, so that the roof ideally would come through here, and these trusses would sit on top of this joist and be supported by the beam and then the columns. So in my structural framing plan, so I've got this on a sheet already. I'm going to turn off floor. So that we can just see all the framing elements here. And while we're here, let's dimension out the columns or any posts that you have. So hit DI or go up to the annotate and hit align dimension. It will come from this grid and throw dimensions on the center of these columns. Go ahead and pick up any grids that are in between. And then work your way around. And here I'm going to add this. So if I grab this dimension and I edit witness line, I can add an additional dimension to the string already. And it's good to keep it in one string so that you can grab them and move them all at the same time. I'm going to annotate, linear, and just work your way around. And don't forget to pick up the grids as you're going through. Now the next thing, let's tag these posts that we placed. So if you go to annotate and tag by category, and then try to tag a post, it's probably going to say there's no tag loaded for structural columns, and you select yes, you want to load one now. So if you're in your structural framing folder, you'd want to go up twice, find your annotations folder under English Imperial, and then structural, and we'll want a structural column tag. And here's a structural column tag 45. Let's use that one. That means it'll be at an angle, which is how you typically will call out these beams. So what I'm going to do is before I select, I'm going to check that it needs to have a leader. And I can pick the structural column, and then I can move the tag. And actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this one that I placed. I'm going to go back up, hit tag category. I'm going to have, instead of a attached end, I'm going to have make it a free end so that I can get it centered on this. I do not like the way this default family is working. It's kind of weird. It's putting the text much lower than I want it. So I'm going to tag. I'm going to double click on it to edit it. I'm going to go into my view graphics, under view, visibility graphics. I'm actually going to, let's see, I'm going to try and get to see if I can make this tag work the way I want it to. I do not like that. So I'm going to delete this tag out of here. So I'm going to scroll down to families, annotation symbols, and structural column tag at 45. I'm just going to hit delete to delete that out of there. I'm going to go back to annotate, tag by category, select it again so it brings up the question if you want to load a tag. And I'm going to load the structural column tag, just the regular one, not the 45. Yeah, I'm gonna use that run. So if you go to load a tag, so if you go to insert, load family, load the structural column tag, not the structural column tag 45, because it seems like there's issues with it. It's not working how it should. Typically, you would want the text to be in line with the leader, but for some reason the default tag is like loading it below, and we don't want that. So we can go through and tag all of these. So you get the idea. You want to go through and tag all of your columns. While I'm in here, I'm actually going to change my beam systems to align to the face of these beams that I just put in. Instead of the face of the columns, which that makes sense, right? They'd put a hanger on the end there. And I'm going to change this end to actually align with our foundation wall here. And just work my way around. So I'm just staying in the align command and then kind of just going through and aligning all the boundary lines at once. Looks like I got them. I'm going to trim, extend some of these beams to the foundation wall as well. Oops, where'd my floor go? So it looks like my slab for my garage must be on a architectural layer, so we can come in here and try to grab my garage slab. have it as structural, but for some reason it's not showing up. Oh, because I turned floors off. So if I can go into edit visibility, turn floors on, and it comes back. So if there's another way I could go around it about it, but I'm just going to hide. Oops, I'm going to hide these in view. Just the element, so hide in view element. To get them back, I would actually have to go down here to this little light bulb to reveal hidden elements. Find it and then right click and unhide in view. An element, since it's basically hiding a single element instead of the entire category. All right, so let's go back to our framing plan. So you'd want to tag all of your columns or your posts that are out there. And let's tag our beam systems. So I don't really want to tag each individual beam in this kind of view. Let's just add a text note. Annotate text. And we'll say 2 by 10. Let's see. 2 by 10 floor joists. At 24 inches on center. And actually, let's make our floor joists 16 inches on center. So 1'4". That's an easy change to do. Then we'll add a leader to the other side by selecting the text that we just placed and then hitting this add leader. And I'm going to leave the deck at 24 inches on center. And actually, for consistency, let's change those as well. Basically, I'm tabbing to get the floor joist, then I'm selecting by holding control so I can select multiple beam systems. I'll change that to 1'4", or you could do 0 space 16. And that's the nice thing about Revit. It's really easy to change things like that globally because in CAD you would have to draw. them at a different spacing or array them at a different spacing. Here in Revit, you can just type in the spacing that you need, and it will automatically do it for you. So in this view, I'm going to edit the visibility graphics. Actually, so what I just did, I'm gonna do it again here. So I'm gonna go to my level 1 floor plan. Okay. Why is my slab too small? So instead of making this slab using the floor, I'm going to use under structure, and I'm going to add a slab. I'm going to pick the rectangle tool, so I'll do that again just so you can follow along. So structure, over here under foundation, we're going to pick slab. I'm going to pick the rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw my structural slab. Hit OK. Let's go to the section view so I can fix it again. You can see in our framing plan, our structural slab should be there without having to turn on the floor, so I can keep the floor turned off, but have the structural slab on here. I want to fix my slope, so I'm going to go into the structural slab, give the slope arrow that we did before. At this end, have it negative. I don't remember what we did before. I'm going to open my section up so I can have it side by side and see what I'm doing. So I got my slab here. I'm going to modify. I'm going to move this down a half an inch so it aligns to the top of my foundation wall. And so negative 11.5. And I got my slip in garage again. Let's go back to our framing plan. much slab did I draw? I probably want to 6-inch foundation slab. That's good enough for me. Before we do that though, let's go back to structure, slab, and then we'll add the thickened slab edge. Like we did before. Oh yes, I'll have to take off the slope before I add. Attach. I'm going to delete this footing that I just made and then add them again. So 4 slab edge. And the last time I did this in the 3D view so I could put them on the bottom of the slab. Edit their type so that they have the same concrete pattern. Okay. And I can come back in here, double click on the slab that I just placed, and then change it back to the 11.5. Don't attach the walls. And you can see now the slab is sloping again and the footings stay with it. I'm going to go back here, go to annotate, text, and we'll do this 6-inch concrete slab. We actually tried to go to annotate and tag it too. It's going to ask us, there's no structural foundation tag, so we can go load a structural foundation tag. Oh, here's even better, structural foundation tag with elevation. There it gives us our elevation, but we'll just call it out with the text. Also going to do spot slope. I'll see that's right. There's not enough slope for it to so we can actually come up here to our annotate tab and hit spot elevation. And we can give the elevation at the front of the garage. And then we can go back here. And you might have to tab to pick the edge of the slab so that we can get this elevation here. So we have a pretty slight slope in the garage. And so now we're noting that there's a negative 11.5 at this end and a negative 1 foot at this end. For the tag for the deck, I'm just gonna change it to 2x10 deck joists at 16. I'm gonna change it to actually exterior deck. And then I'm going to add a comma TYP period so that they know it's typical. The deck, the exterior deck, it's going to be these same joists. I might also copy this note to the upper deck. And so now we've got our framing plan. So if you go to tag and they're horizontal, you can just hit tab to change the orientation. Or if you want to, if I've already placed it, you can actually select it, go to the properties palette, and then you can change its orientation either on the properties palette or underneath here. I'm going to go through and tag all my columns or posts. Now I'm just hitting TG to bring up the tag command, or you can go to annotate and tag by category. Alright, and so now let's tag these beams that we just placed. So we can go to annotate, tag by category, and then we can tag these beams. So I'm not going to use a leader, and I'm going to tag these beams here. Now I'm going to get them all tagged, and then I'm going to go change something. Once I get them all tagged, we're going to edit this family. You see how the joist below is going through it? We can actually change that so that it's a wipeout. So I'm going to select the tag. I'm going to edit family. So they've drawn a rectangle over the tag. I'm actually going to delete that rectangle because we can control all that within the label. And that's just the typical Autodesk family. So if I go select this label, I'm going to edit type, and I'm going to tell it to show border, and instead of transparent, I'm going to make it opaque. I'm going to change the leader border offset to 3/64. So it's a little bit tighter. And that's all. Now I'm going to load and close. I'm not going to save changes to the tag, but I am going to load it into the family and overwrite it. And I think I'm going to change the offset to 1/64 instead of 3/64. Yeah, I like it. I'm going to move some of these to the outside so there's no confusion about what they're tagging. So typically columns will have this leader tag. Often they're at a 45. And then beams are typically tagged in the direction that the beams are going. So I'd go through and clean up some of your beams. Let's throw some dimensions on our concrete slab before we print this out. And let's tag our footings as well while we're here. So we'll tag by category. And we can tag the footings. So if you just go up to annotate, tag by category, and we can tag the footings. What I'm going to do too is actually I'm going to give it a leader. I'm going to have a free end. And then I'm just going to put it so it looks more like a note. And I can make this tag look more like text if I wanted to. So I'm going to edit type. I'm going to put a leader, a 20-degree filled leader. And then I also checked the text on the 2 lines instead of a single line. And then I'm going to actually double click on this tag. And I'm going to make these tags it looks like they're already opaque. That one's not. This is a messy tag. I don't like the way they have this tag set up. But I'm going to leave it for now. I'm going to change it back to one line because I just don't like the way it's aligned and I don't want to fix it right now. Let's see. I'm going to go to view. Trying to get it so our foundation shows up. I'm going to select these and see why they're not showing up. Slab edges. View range should definitely be deep enough. I'm going to go to my visibility graphics. And trying to figure out why. Because what I want to do is be able to show the dashed line underneath here. So I should be able to show hidden line, but it's not showing me the foundation underneath. I'll try a different way. So this is structural foundations. I'm going to go to my visibility graphics. I'm going to make this like 50% transparent. I wonder. Yeah, so they're under floors. That's unfortunate. So I'm going to hide in view like we did elements in view. For some reason, these footings are under the floor category. And actually, let's go back to our visibility graphics. So I'm going to do the reveal hidden elements, get our floor back. Right click, select it, right click, unhide in view element. Hit the little hide in view. I'm going to go to the visibility graphics, and under floors, I'm going to uncheck everything except for slab edges. And that didn't work. I was hoping that it would turn off everything but the slab edge. So we'll have to go back the other way. I'm going to right click, hide in view element. I'm actually going to go back to visibility graphics. Change this to clear overrides for the structural foundations. So we can kind of see our footing beneath as just dashed lines. And then we should be able to tab and call that out. Maybe we'll need to have it transparent. Actually, let's turn off structural foundations. Go to annotate, tag by category. Just do not want to cooperate. I'm going to try to do this instead. So I'm going to go to annotate, tag by category, or tag all, and structural foundation. Try to actually select the foundations. Go to tag all, only selected objects. Make sure that's selected. And then see if this works. I don't think it will, because there's no slab edge category. That's okay. I'm just going to select it and then call out the thickened slab edge below. So I'll just do text and call it thickened slab edge below. And I'm going to do a little comma tip. And so I think this is good enough for printing. So we'll get out of this view. I'm going to go to File, Print. Make sure your setup is correct. Make sure zoom is on, offset from corner, 24 by 36 landscape. Make sure the hide, reference, and unreferenced views and crop boundaries are selected just in case you forget to turn them off. I'm going to do selected views and sheets. Select, check none. And I'm going to uncheck views so I can just get the sheets and then do the framing plan. I don't want to save that for future. I'm just going to create a separate file. And yes, I do want it to print a separate file. And I will... Where have I been saving these? I'll just save it right here for now. And then I'll upload that to Bluebeam. It looks like I need to re-register. I switched computers, so I have to deactivate it from the other one. But I'll post this up online. Let me know if you have any questions, and we can go over any questions that you might have. All right. Thanks, guys.